have joined the Antisocial Network.
Yeah. Mask up, stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah, right.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to with Lisa, Phil, and Aaron, who will be joining us shortly, hopefully. This week we're talking to Russell Van Brocklyn. Is that acceptable?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. He is a dyslexia teacher who is also dyslexic himself. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little about you?
Just 1 second. Just before we start, I wanted to let you know, I was hoping Aaron would be here. This is, you might not know this, but this is the first episode of season 7 of YeahUhH.
Oh, cool.
Episode 240. So I feel like I want to congratulate you.
Well, the congratulation is really on you. This podcast would not exist without you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But it's an achievement for us. We
Yes.
spread it out over 5 years, but
and that's fine.
And there's no end in sight. But
Okay.
Russell.
So back to you, Russell.
You're our honorary guest for this very important episode of YeahUhH. It's great to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. Well, what got me involved with this is the last thing I was ever supposed to do in my life. What happened is it was the late 90s. I was finishing up my college degree, and I was interested in how laws were created, not some course I wanted to know. So I applied and was accepted to the New York State Assembly internship program. And I showed up and I said, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And the director kind of freaked out because typically, he said this won't work. He said, because typically in the assembly internship, you have the assembly member, the chief of staff, who generally was an intern a year or two before, and the intern, and that's it. So the director went up to the speaker's office, and the speaker said, you've accepted this kid. We've accepted him. You're going to make this work. We're not sending him away because he's dyslexic. So they got a senior team together, and they made a pretty radical solution. They literally pulled me out of the legislative office building. And that's important because being around other interns is an important part of the internship. And they put me over to the Capitol, into the Majority Leaders Program and Council's office. And I see why they did that. There were 3 administrative assistants who could help me with my horrendous writing, but they had no idea what to do with an undergrad. So they treated me like a graduate student, and they ran the assembly day to day. Had a great internship for the academic portion. I gave, instead of a 30-page paper, I gave an hours-long presentation and Q&A. So they wrapped all that together, said for 15 credits, we're recommending an A- grade. They send it back to the flagship campus of the State University of New York system, SUNY Center at Buffalo, to the political science department. They looked at the accommodations that the state recommended, and they didn't like them. So they lowered my grade. What do you think they lowered it to?
A C?
Nope. 15 credits of F. They flunked me.
Whoa.
Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah.
That is acceptable.
Well, they didn't like the extraordinary accommodations the state government itself came up with. So at that point, I had an option of going back to the state assembly. There are senior roles I was offered. I was offered lobbying roles because I stayed nights, I stayed weekends. I knew the people that ran the assembly day to day, and that access is extraordinarily valuable.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Instead of doing that, I went to my professors and I said, I don't want anybody ever to feel like this again. So I said, where can I go in grad school to force myself to learn to read and write? Well, they said, if you like political science, it's obvious, law school. So I went to law school. Yes, where I can't read and write worth a darn, and that's the way you read and write more than anything. So it's my second day of contracts. Professor Warner, who's a dyslexic professor for a decade, calls on me. And this is where something weird happened, something they've never even heard of before. What they do in law school is they ask you questions using the Socratic method. If you don't know the answers, they keep asking you questions anyway to embarrass you publicly until you adapt. Well, that didn't happen to me. When he called on me, I didn't respond as a student. I responded as his equal. Make sure you understand what I'm saying. I'm responding as if I was a legal professor for decades. He asked me questions. I answered. He asked me questions. He couldn't shake me. I was challenging him with deep questions. We knew where each other were going. Multiple questions ahead of time. Everything just organized and focused for the first time in my life. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He said, Russell, at the end of the, I have to move on to the next case. You couldn't be any more correct. I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. So after that, I left law school and I wanted the New York State Senate to fund my research for dyslexia, which they don't do.
Mhm.
Well, after going through the New York State Education Department, the top professors in Western New York for the State University of New York system and the State University of New York Research Foundation, finally, after a couple of years, they agreed to fund my research. It was in a public school for multiple years called the Averill Park Central School District, my old high school, right outside of Albany, New York, the state capital. So what I did is I wanted to take students like me and solve that initially. These were highly motivated, highly intelligent high school juniors and seniors with middle school writing skills. And I decided to give them the Graduate Records Exam Analytical Writing Assessment. This was a test designed to measure the writing ability of college graduates going into grad school. So we gave them that test. The vast majority of them scored in the 0 percentile, 1 class period a day for the school year, about 180 sessions. They increased to the average range of entering graduate students, the 30th to 70th percentile. They all went out of college. They all graduated GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. The cost to New York State was under $900 per kid. We were literally 2 to 3 times more effective than the best dyslexic college to transfer dyslexic students at less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
Wow, that's remarkable. So we're not talking about learning to read by doing highlights. We're talking about highly detailed documents and writings that actually engage fertile mind, right? I mean, so
right.
So that's probably key to the whole thing, right? I mean, it's got to be intellectually stimulated. Like if you're teaching someone with like dyslexia to read with some like very basic materials, that might not be stimulating enough to spark intellectual curiosity.
Well, actually, again, the thing with these kids is they were extraordinarily motivated and intelligent. All right.
Let me interrupt you there, because I want to say that in my experience, and it is my belief that I think that dyslexia comes with a higher IQ, or a higher IQ comes with dyslexia, because so many people can get through life without the ability to read, and in our society, that is a crutch. That is not something that helps you. So I think that being able to mask the fact that you have dyslexia as you get older proves intelligence.
Well, when it comes to intelligence, what I'm about to show you about what dyslexia really is with the actual brain scans, we are better in certain areas and less than others. But the main point, the big picture that I'm trying to get across is when you apply the science of dyslexia, how the dyslexic brain actually works properly. These kids, the initial study, were extraordinarily motivated, extraordinarily intelligent. I was dealing with the elite students. Why? Because I wanted to show what could happen with the kids that were easiest to help fix. And remember, we jumped them from middle school writing to average of entering grad students. But when I presented this in New York City at the New York City branch of the International Dyslexia Association in 2006, problem that arose was, number one, the teachers asked, does this work with normal kids? And I said, absolutely not. So they said, well, come back when you can do that. So just so you know what's going back, it took me 8 more years to figure that out. But essentially, this is dyslexia. This is the best book on dyslexia. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. This is the second edition. She's a medical doctor from Yale. That's dyslexia. So do you see people with a normal brain? Do you see this massive neural activity?
Mm-hmm.
Now look at the back part of the dyslexic brain. Do you see how it's essentially next to zero?
Mm.
Now look at the front part of the dyslexic brain. Do you see how it's about 2.5 times overactive?
Yep.
Okay. So my theory on how to help dyslexic normal kids, normal, generally normal or a bit above average intelligence, average motivation, we need to take the reading and writing from back here that doesn't work, back part of the brain, and move it to the front part of the brain. Now, when I did that, what I noticed is that the biggest problem I was faced is that teachers and parents kept coming to me and saying that their dyslexic elementary school kids were essentially writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words for sentences. They had no idea how to fix this. So what I would like to do is to show your audience how to do that in the next few minutes.
Sure.
So here's my question. You said you were dyslexic. When you were in elementary school, did you have...
Only I just couldn't tell time. That was it. I had the rest of it. It's like they said that it sometimes happens with children of dyslexics. They don't know why. There's not much research. And honestly, it hasn't been a big problem.
Okay. Did you ever know any verified dyslexic elementary school kids who were writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words ever?
I did not verify them, no. I did not have that personal experience.
Okay. So I'm just going to give you an example of a student that I use in these cases. Her name is Sarah. Mm-hmm. She was 5th grade, 10 years old at the time, reading and writing at the 2nd grade level, but she was essentially writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words. Her favorite thing in the world is swimming. She was on the swim team. She jumped in the pool every chance she could get. So what we do, if you were going to teach Sarah, this is something that your audience can apply tonight. You're going to type out on a laptop, not an iPad, not an iPhone, certainly not handwriting, a laptop with a real keyboard, or some people still use desktops with a real keyboard. You're going to type out hero, +sign, what are we talking about? And Sarah's going to copy that right below it. It's okay. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying. So we got hero, +sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap out hero for Sarah. Sarah, +sign, what are we talking about? Now we're going to go up to a list of 10 likes, 10 things that Sarah really, really likes, and then 10 things she really, really dislikes. And we're going to take the first thing she really, really likes, which is swimming. So we got Sarah, +sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about for swimming. So we got Sarah, +sign, swimming. See how we got there? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to try to fool you with 2 of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. This is where most people have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. Do you think I'll be able to fool you with the 2 simplest questions you will ever be asked?
I don't know. I do enjoy the challenge. Philip?
Okay. I'm going to indulge you by saying no, knowing that you probably will be able to. But no.
Okay. So here we are. We got Sarah, +sign, swimming. We need to swap out the +sign for a word to make a sentence. And I'm going to ask you 2 questions about that process. So here we go. We got Sarah, +sign, swimming. We got to swap out the +sign. Here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Well, like.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got it exactly correct. Now, one more question to make this work. Go ahead and replace the +sign with the words you just said. What's the 3-word sentence?
Sarah likes swimming.
But that's not what I asked. Let's go back to the first one.
Ask that question again.
Okay. I asked, does Sarah like or dislike swimming? You said like, which is correct. Like. Now we got Sarah, +sign, swimming. We're going to swap out the +sign for the words you just said. What's the 3-word sentence?
Sarah likes swimming. It should be because
but
that's the
that's
word
not.
I just said, likes.
But that's not what I. That's not what you just said, and that's not it. Do I have you thoroughly confused now?
I feel like I'm taking an IT interview right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you ready for the epiphany on what dyslexia actually is?
Yes.
Okay. So what I asked you initially, does Sarah like or dislike swimming? You said like, which is correct. But then when you put it into the sentence, you did what almost every educated person does, and you added an S to make it a proper sentence. Sarah's
Actually, I
dyslexic.
did not. When I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then you were correct. I misheard you.
Not.
I screwed it up because I did.
Yeah. He
okay,
did, but I did not.
You got it right.
Like, I
okay.
wanted to fix it. But I was like, but like is what I said. Likes is what belongs.
Well, anyway.
Okay.
So I did not fix it.
Okay, so you got it correct.
Okay.
You're
sorry.
Phil got it wrong. Okay, so just so you know what is going on here. So Lisa, you got it correct. Phil, you got it wrong. And because Phil, what you did is you did what almost every educated person did, and you self-corrected it. Lisa, you got it correct, which is very rare. Congratulations. What's going on is Sarah, let's go again back to the science. Mm-hmm. This is where you're supposed to be doing that. Phil, this is your brain. This is where you process this. Sarah's got nothing going on. You got everything going on. So we got to pull that forward and have Sarah do it where she has 2.5 times the brain activity, where it's not supposed to be processed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we do is we ask Sarah to read what she wrote out loud, which is Sarah like swimming. And then we ask Sarah, does that sound generally correct? And she's going to say no. And we're going to tell Sarah, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. We're going to have her practice that with 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Now, do you see how like and dislike is a very simple form of word analysis? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, after because, we're going to go Sarah likes swimming because, and the reasons after because is a simple form of articulation. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're pulling the process from the back part of the brain, which doesn't work for dyslexics, and we're pulling it to the overactive front part where we have 2.5 times the neuroactivity. Mm-hmm. So give me a simple reason why a 10-year-old girl would like to swim. Just a simple reason.
I loved being in the water. I love swimming.
Love being in the water. Sarah likes swimming because she loves being in the water. Okay. Now, do you see now how we have a whole mess of misspelled words?
No.
Well, if you have Sarah write out, Sarah likes swimming because she loves being in the water, you're going to have a whole mess of misspelled words.
Okay. But why? Okay.
Because she's dyslexic.
Okay.
Not only does she have trouble with grammar, but her spellings, remember I said she writes a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words?
Right.
Here's how we fix the spelling. The first thing we do is we tell Sarah to read what she wrote out loud. Does it sound generally correct? If not, fix it until it does. Because teachers generally have a hard time with horrendously bad grammar. If we do that, we fix the really nasty stuff and a good amount of the intermediate stuff. Teachers are good at the simple stuff and the intermediate stuff. So that helps out tremendously. Next, we tell Sarah, drop a period, and every time there's a misspelled word, she has to retype the entire sentence. So she tells herself, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm not going to make that mistake. And she keeps doing it for around 3 to 13 times. Around 9 to 13 times, sometimes you can see sweat coming down her forehead because she's focusing so hard. And that intense focus is where the magic happens. Eventually, she'll get it correct. And then we do it for all 10 likes and 10 dislikes for reason 1. Then 10 likes and 10 dislikes, everything spelled correctly for reason 1 and reason 2. Then 10 likes and 10 dislikes spelled correctly for reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3. Now, Sarah is no longer writing randomly placed misspelled words. She's writing basic 3-reason sentences with correct spelling and decent grammar. All right, here's the other thing. Everybody is so focused on reading. I teach writing first, Because if you can write it, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, here's the problem when we do this. That's step 3 of the model. The first step I had to deal with is the kids I've noticed with dyslexia are academic specialists, not generalists. We're really good at a very narrow area. That's why I did so well in law school, because it was very narrow in what I liked. So we have to, for the intervention period, until we get them at grade level, this is a key point, we have to focus on their speciality. This is why. I'm about to tell you about my most successful middle school student. Her name is Casey. I met her when she was 10. At the end of 5th grade, she turned 11 over the summertime. I never saw this before. I will never see this again. Okay? Just so everybody knows, this is a one-off. Casey was really interested in Theodore Roosevelt, so I assigned her this little book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, all 900 pages, written at the 10th grade to first-year college level, depending on who you are. Casey was reading and writing at the 2nd grade level. So I told Casey, do 10, 20-minute sessions with your mom, maybe a couple of times a week. I didn't know Casey. She ignored everything, essentially locked herself in her room for 3 hours a night for 6 months. Most of the days, whole days in the summertime. At the end of that, you could flip to some random page, point to a word, and she would tell you that dictionary definition. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for maybe 15 minutes a week. Okay?
Remarkable.
Yeah, remarkable is right, but Casey's mom had a concern. Is it just for books she likes? And I said, okay, I'll give her something she's going to freaking hate. This is my most popular book, period. Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, all 1,000 pages. This is at the junior level, the senior level of high school. Why is it my most popular book? People think Disney was dyslexic. And you go, have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World?
Yes,
You walk in, you feel the Disney magic?
absolutely. See the big globe out front,
Yeah. That's
Actually,
two universal.
that was Universal Studios.
All Universal Studios.
We
Okay.
haven't been to Disney.
It's been years.
Oh.
By the time we went to Florida, we were definitely we were past our mid-20s, and we didn't have kids, so we went to Universal.
Okay. Well, if you go into Disney, there are two people that say they feel the Disney magic. It's 2 universal things. Okay.
Mhm.
Takes most of my students 1 to 2 years to find them. First one's easy. The second one's very hard. But once they find it, they're reading at the advanced high school level. Took Casey 3 months. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because when I asked Casey, when we moved from a book that you like to a book that you dislike, how much did her motivation drop? She said about 50%. For the most motivated kid I've ever worked with. Most kids are 75 to 90% decrease in motivation. So what you need to
That would
understand,
be me.
yes, if you step outside the kid's speciality, they're down 75 to 90%. Okay, which is almost going to ruin any chance of success of that program or make it extremely inefficient.
Mhm.
So our school system wants us to be well-rounded before we specialize. Dyslexics just want to specialize. So we're outside their speciality for almost everything, and you wonder why you can't get the kids to do things.
Mhm.
This also works for ADD and ADHD kids, especially ADHD. You get them outside their speciality, that just won't do anything. Inside,
Mhm.
good luck pulling them away. So
Right.
the number one thing is during the intervention period, we have to focus on the kid's speciality. All right. Number 2, we can't ask a dyslexic this question. For Martin Luther King, his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, what effect did it have on the American 1960 civil rights movement? For a dyslexic, that's like trying to grab fog. We just
Mhm.
can't do anything with it because the front part of our brain that's 2.5 times overactive is just extraordinarily chaotic. There's just no organization there. What we have to do is force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. Let me say that again. We have to force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So how we do that is we focus on a specific to a general question. For example, with Martin Luther King, we asked what compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech. We look up that information in his biography. We answer it. That answer gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which forces our brain to organize itself by thinking in a linear step-by-step fashion. Okay?
Okay.
Because if you ask a dyslexic kid in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. So we force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output, starting with a specific and moving to the general. So what's the basic model? We during the intervention period, until we get them to grade level or above, we focused on the kid's speciality. We teach them from the specific to the general, using word analysis followed by articulation. And it's literally that simple.
So it's a kind of a building approach. You're building towards.
So is this approach being used nationwide?
Well, I started podcasting seriously last April, and last year I did 157 podcasts. Okay. I'm trying to spread the word about it. I'm just about finishing up with my first book, and it's about Kimberly. The thing is, I can never tell people about the success of most of my clients because they're very, very private.
Right.
But Kimberly said,
you can always use, a fake name.
Alias.
Oh, no. People, when in this field, people want to know about a real parent and a real kid and exactly what happened, and they don't want anything held back.
Okay.
So December 27th of 2024, I met Kimberly from Facebook, and she said I could use her and Reed, her son. So Kimberly's background, she has some college. She's a religious homeschooling mom. Reed is 10 in 5th grade. Kimberly has successfully taught Reed's 3 brothers and sisters how to read properly using standard methods. They're not dyslexic. She felt really horrible that she failed her son. So right before, just literally like within 2 weeks before of us meeting, Kimberly paid $700 for the state of Ohio to assess her kids. Reed was reading at the 11th percentile. He was writing at the 4th percentile. So she worked with Reed for 3 half-hour sessions a week. Most parents do 10 to 15 minutes a night. So she worked harder than a lot of parents, so about an hour and a half a week for the rest of the school year. I worked with her for about a half an hour a week. At the end of that, she put in about 36 hours, and I'm not going to tell you what the results were because over the summertime, Reed's friends wanted him in public school because for social reasons. They wanted him in class with them for lunch for social reasons. So he entered public school in August, about 8 months after we spoke. What happened? They assessed him, and I'm giving you that data because he was in a public school. Mom is miles away. It's better data. What they found is that his reading jumped from the 11th percentile to the 64th percentile. His writing jumped from the 4th percentile to the 65th percentile.
All right.
Kimberly did what every parent dreams of. She solved this herself. Reed is in public school getting generally A's and B's. He's a very happy kid. Now, if this was January, they would have placed him in special education, away from his friends, unhappy kid. So that's how successful this is. Kimberly literally spent less than half the time the public schools would have used working with Reed in English. And literally she taught him over 7 times faster. That's how powerful this is.
So are you doing, I mean, do you have the backing of any group or any, I mean, are you sort of freelancing right now? Or, I mean, do you have like you're helping with individual cases or?
Well, I've been training New York City special ed teachers how to do this for the past 10 years at the Everyone Reading Conference. All right. So I also have presented 6 times at conferences created by the New Jersey Association the good grief. It's the Learning Disability Association of New Jersey. And for the entire state of New Jersey, because of the pandemic, they had huge writing problems. They have an association there created under New Jersey state law in 1965 called the New Jersey Association of Learning Consultants. Their job is to assess dyslexia and to recommend programs as part of it. I taught their entire association this process in 2022. I was the only one doing writing. And as far as, does anybody recognize it? This is from the Research Foundation of the State University of New York. My original program is owned by them, and they're saying, they really recommend it. It's the best solution at the time for dyslexia.
Okay.
So, I work primarily with teachers and parents and just show them a much more effective way of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you this: do you find do you find I know that I firmly believe that dyslexia and higher intelligence go hand in hand. But I don't know how you feel about that. Obviously, you're very intelligent. But what about like ADHD combined with,
What the general science is, when the New York State government insisted that I get assessed before they would do anything, and they paid for it by a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology, and my IQ came back at 127, which was around, I think, the 96th percentile. As far as generally, yes, dyslexics do have a slight IQ bump. And as far as success goes, do you ever watch Shark Tank?
No.
No.
I know.
I've watched, if it happens, if I'm scrolling through and something looks interesting, I'll pause. But we're not.
Yeah, we know
what.
I guess we've seen maybe.
I know what it is, but.
Okay. Well, there's 6 sharks. Guess how many of them are dyslexic? 6?
3?
3 exactly.
Okay.
Dyslexia makes up a minority of the population, usually about 5 to 10%. If you throw in ADD, ADHD, you can push towards 20. Yet half of them are dyslexic. So we tend to do very well. Like, did you ever hear of this guy called Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, I heard him.
He came out as dyslexic over a decade ago. So there are huge advantage of being dyslexic for creative high-end work. That's what we have 2.5 times the neural activity in the front part of the brain. We go to grad school, we own it day one or soon thereafter because it's in a specialized area, and they ask, can you contribute? And for us, the answer is yes. All right, so there is a huge advantage there. Now, what I just showed you with Reed was the beginning point. The next issue I ran into was that was great for elementary school because we showed them how to do the most basic body paragraphs. But for middle and high school, we needed to do something much more evolved, which I just want to give you the outline here. So I would have students Reed's age start doing body paragraphs where we applied a warrant to the body paragraph. Have you ever heard of applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
No, I don't understand the ideology.
Well, almost anybody outside of a doctoral student, including almost everybody with a master's degree or below, have no idea what this is. A professor, college professor, seeing a student applying a warrant to a body paragraph, they tell me that they just assumed the writing's at the college level. So here's how we do that and what it is. So we have a hero. We find that the hero wants to do something. We write out what the hero wants to do. And for each sentence, we pick out the most important word, and we pick out the most important word, the best one for whatever we write out for what the hero wants to do. That's what I like to call a base universal theme. People then ask me, well, what does a universal theme matter for advanced writing? And I said, well, everything. Let me give you an example. I want you to think about a movie that you really, really, really like, that you think is one of the best ever, that everybody has seen and you know a lot about. What's the name of that movie?
Godfather.
Christmas
Godfather.
Vacation.
Okay. Which one are we going to go with? Godfather or Christmas Vacation?
Let's go with Godfather.
Okay.
Okay. So with Godfather, this is a hard question. I want you to think about one word, one universal theme that best represents the entire movie in your view.
Politics.
Family.
Politics. Okay, which one are we going with, politics or family?
Let's go with family.
Okay,
We'll
so
make that.
family. All right, now, if you look back at the movie reviews written for The Godfather when they came out, the ones in, the New York Times, Washington Post, written literally by Ivy League educated people, you're going to pretty much find they say, this happened, and this happened. They literally tell you what's happening in the movie, which kind of ruins it, okay?
Yeah.
Here's how we do a movie review properly. We take that universal youth theme you came up with, which is family, and then we run it through, how did the actors do with that universal theme? How did the director do? How did the screenwriter do? And then you write up your review that way. It's focused so people can understand what you're trying to say, but you're not ruining it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here's the problem when we use the universal theme with family. It's really broad, which makes using it as a focus for writing very difficult. So what we do is we go back to what we had. We have a hero. Hero wants to do something. We write out what that is. For each sentence, we find the most important word. Then we find the best, most important word. And that's our base universal theme, like family was. But in order to make it something useful as a lens, as a universal theme, what we need to do is we put that into the thesaurus. And this is where I tell my kids to do. I have them for each time, like for the original base universal theme, I have them type out the word, then go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, pick out their definition, and type out the definition. Not copy and paste. They have to type it out. Now, how many times do you have to type out a word and a definition until you know it, period?
Probably 5 for me.
Okay. Can you see how it's like 5, 10, 15, 20, who knows? It's some number. But once a student types it out enough times, they permanently remember it. So what happens is I have my kids doing this generally starting at 10 or 11. When they're 16 or 17 taking their SAT or their ACT for going to college, the verbal section of those tests are essentially vocabulary tests. My kids don't need to get to learn hundreds of words and their definitions. They've already done that when they were 10 or 11. Okay. This builds up a vocabulary of hundreds of evolved words, which is the baseline for them jumping up massively in their reading skills. Okay. So what we do now is we then go to the thesaurus, and you can pick 5 words, 10 words, the entire level, multiple levels. We go through that process. And what you're trying to do is to find the word and the definition, especially the definition that best matches what's in your head. Okay. And once you find that, that is now our post universal theme. That is the one we're going to focus. And because it matches what's best in your head, it's much more specific. It's much more useful using as a focusing for our discussion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you see how this is an advanced form of word analysis? Okay. So next, now that we have our our final universal theme, we find the optimum villain. It's a person or a concept that can best prevent the hero from accomplishing their goal. So we find our best optimum villain, and then we put all that into the hero, our post universal theme, and our optimum villain into a simple sentence. Then we go because and 3 really good reasons. Now, by really good, I mean really good. Do you see how we're doing the really good reasons as a more advanced form of articulation? Same thing. We've now moved everything to the front part of the brain. So for each reason, then what we do is we reduce it to a 1-word universal theme. We go to the book or in this case, the Godfather script, and we would find a quote that deals with a 1-sentence quote that deals with our post universal theme. Okay. at the beginning and one at the end of the script. We would take those two quotes and put them together. That's our data, okay? Then we would use those two quotes to form our topic sentence. Now, do you remember in going through your education, we would have our topic sentence and our data. They would be quotes, it would be statistics or whatever. Do you see how the connection didn't tend to flow very well when we went right to topic sentence and data? So what a warrant is it connects the topic sentence with the data by answering a how and why question. So because they're the same universal theme for both quotes, I applied just one warrant connecting the topic sentence with the two quotes and answering the how and why question. And a professor seeing that automatically says, wow, they're using a warrant. This is college level. Now, when we train kids to do this, we do add some steps from the New York State Regents exam in English, which is our final writing exam for high school kids, and a lot of stuff in the craft of research. But just based on this, here's the fun part. These kids are working with, so a lot of times they have older brothers and sisters who are fighting to be valedictorian. And I love it when they have an older brother or sister who's a senior in high school in advanced placement English. And then their younger brother or sister in seventh grade is using warrants and writing technically more advanced paragraphs. The AP kid will write better words, better flow, but the dyslexic in middle school is writing better technically advanced paragraphs because they're using warrants. And the AP high school senior looks at this, my kid brother's writing more technically advanced than I can. They're dyslexic. He's 12. They get all frustrated. It's beautiful.
It's a feather in your cap.
Now, could this also work with subjectively norm education?
Oh, yes.
I mean, can this method teach the senior as
absolutely.
well?
Well, to give you an example, I had a kid that is, his name is, I have permission from his father to tell his story. His dad's, I met in a podcast. Grayson is a normal kid, or if you want to call a genius normal. He's 10 years old and he wants to work at NASA. But he's also scoring in the 99th percentile for both science and math. So I said, okay, Grayson, if you want to work at NASA, you have to publish in a peer-reviewed journal to even apply, okay, and to be taken seriously. So I said, what we're going to do is I'm using a book called The Craft of Research. It's a book from the University of Chicago that came out in 1995. I use this with all my kids. What I just showed you was the context.
Okay, Russell. There.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello? Hello? Okay, you're back. Okay. So I use a book called...
Maybe it's on our end here.
Yeah, Russell, you're freezing up a bit for us, so hold on for just a moment, if you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Looks like it's better now. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I use a book called...
Frozen. Is that... Just a moment.
Zoom here.
Okay.
All
right. So when I was working with Grayson, remember he scored he's 10 years old, wants to work at NASA, 99th percentile in English, in math and science. So I use a book called The Craft of Research. It was published in 1995 by the University of Chicago. It was designed to help their PhD students write doctoral dissertations because they didn't know how. It's sold over 1 million copies since then. And I told Grayson if he wants to go and work at NASA, he has to publish. So I teach all my students this. What I just showed you is it's based on context, getting everybody on the same page. That's what I just showed you, the simple and advanced form of context. Problem statement and solution. So to answer your question, does this work for everybody? I'm using Grayson as an example because he's incredibly advanced. he's interested in Mars. So I went to Opus 4.5 from Claude, and I had to do deep research project on the history of Mars, but only using peer-reviewed PhD level material, and I had it read out a deep research report on that. And then I lowered the grade level to advanced 6th grade level, 9th grade understanding. And Grayson thought that was too easy. So I increased it to the 9th grade reading level and the ability, how advanced it is to the senior level of high school, which is, he said that's just right for him at 10. So we're going through the exact same process. He's going through it much faster than a dyslexic, which is typical. And I'm hoping to get him ready for something that is worth publishing in the next 10 years. If he can do that in college, that would be incredibly helpful to get him into grad school. Then he has to repeat it a few times. Probably going to try to get him to do something in high school because he's so young and he's got such a head start. But we have to find a problem statement where not only is it something that he can do, it has to find a gap in the current literature. Okay, and that is about the most challenging part of that. But we got to get his writing up there first. But this does work great for typical students. They tend to go a lot faster going through it. The dyslexics tend to go much deeper.
Interesting. I mean,
so dyslexics are better at detail.
No, dyslexics just tend to go much deeper when you ask them a question. The non-dyslexics tend to go surface area. Students like Grayson will go much deeper. He's different. He's what I call a full brain. So if you look, he can do both the back part and the front part. He can do both. It's very rare. These are what we call university professors. But it's the same process for the super advanced kids. So I'm going to try to get him a problem statement, something that's worth doing after he literally goes through probably hundreds of peer-reviewed journal articles, and to work with him to show him how to use artificial intelligence to find a gap, a problem that he can answer that's worth somebody's time, that's important, but also one that he can do. The first time I went through the process with him, it was, how do we, because in a billion years, there's going to be no more life on Earth. The oceans will be melted because the sun's going to get so much hotter. We have to find another place to go. And that's where he concluded. And I said, well, yeah, but if you could do that, you'd be the richest guy in the world. It's a little too much to ask for a 10-year-old. So we keep going through that process each session, trying to narrow it down and explore areas where we can find that gap and something that he can actually do. And that's really difficult. But once he does that, then it's just a matter of showing him the mechanics of doing a published research article. And once he gets published, even if it's in an obscure journal, okay, as long as it's peer reviewed, that'll give him an excellent chance to get to college or grad school. Does it a few more times, it'll give him an excellent chance of getting into NASA.
Right.
So we got about 10 minutes here. I would get into AI, but it sounds like you probably would have quite a bit to say on AI.
Oh no, I can tell you the basics on doing that in 5 minutes. So just so everybody knows, when ChatGPT came out with its Pro subscription in December of 2024, I bought it that day.
Okay.
All right. I canceled that in December because 5.2 thinking, I can get up to thinking for 5-10 minutes. And that's generally all that I need. What I subscribe, I spend $140 a month on 3 services, $100 a month for Claude Opus 4.5, 20 for ChatGPT, and 20 for Google.
You're breaking up again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's breaking up really bad again.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Better.
Okay.
20 for Google.
So I spend $140 a month. 20.
No, we're frozen.
Hello?
I know.
Okay. All right.
Hi. We've had some freezes
okay.
there.
Okay. So I spend $140 a month on AI. 20 for ChatGPT, 100 for Claude Opus 4.5, and 20 for Google, which I hardly use. Primarily what I do is I find, just so you know about Claude Opus 4.5, they have a user base of about 5% of OpenAI's, but they have about 75% of the revenue because it's focused on business people. I use it, the first thing I do before I do anything that I'm not fully knowledge about, I focus on doing a deep research problem. I literally ask and design, have Claude Opus 4.5 design. I talk to her, so this is what I want to do. What do you see? What do you like? What do you dislike? How can we, what's the best answer to this? Then I ask it, how do we go and create a deep research study on this? I want 3,500 to 4,000 words. And then once it tells me what it thinks it needs, I tell it, this is the key point, write a prompt to yourself telling you how to do this in at least 2,000 words. Okay, I have to give it that length so it actually does what I ask. And then I say, run it. So then it runs it. I get the research study. And then from there, I decide what I want to do and I compare it to the research study until I come up with my solution. Then what I found with Claude Opus 4.5 is I created something called a full polish mode. I simply told it that for permanent memory, how do we, first of all, tell me what percentage the document is ready to be published, tell me a paragraph explaining yourself, tell me up to 100 reasons, 100 problems that are preventing this from being published, and then your exact details on how do you want to fix each problem, and then make sure you agree with those as the human, and then you tell it to go ahead and to don't rewrite the entire document, just make these changes, give me a fresh draft. I run that through until it's at 100%. And then if it's really important, I will ask it, I created a deep research report on how to write effective prompts for ChatGPT 5.2 thinking. For ChatGPT 5.2, you always want to leave it on thinking. It's $20 a month. Don't ever do the instant or the automatic. You will get worse answers. Sometimes it'll take 2 seconds. Sometimes it'll take 10 minutes. That's the time it takes to actually give a good answer. So then I have that prompt, which is about 4,000 word document, deep research document, how to write an effective prompt for 5.2 thinking. Then I'll ask Opus 4.5 to write out the prompt to have ChatGPT 5.2 thinking actually do a review and make it at least 2,000 words. Then I'll take the document, upload it to ChatGPT 5.2 thinking, put in the prompt and run it. And then this is really key. I will ask Opus, I'll take the recommendations, put it back into Opus 4.5 and say, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Explain why. And I tend to go with what Opus recommends. Sometimes I'll disagree with it and say, well, what you disagree with, put that in anyway. You're the human. You have to tell it what to do. Then I'll run that until I'm getting back stupid. Now I'm doing this, I'm applying for a TEDx speech. I have done this with literally 52 passes on my TEDx speech. Each time I'm finding about 4 micro things that need to be improved. All right. And as I'm making these things improved, the speech is now getting very close to being ready to be accepted. It's an extreme amount, but doing a TEDx speech is very easy to get kicked out of. You get accepted and give a good one. Now you're a real person. Okay. You're people will now take you seriously in your field.
We had
so am I going to keep doing this? Yeah, I'm going to do this over 100 times and it's worth it.
Deborah.
Because to get humans with that level of ability, I found that they run about $300 to $500 an hour.
So,
and I'm having the AI do
it. Just play devil's advocate here. That level of expertise and being able to use the tool, does that speak at all to the unreliability of the tool? I mean, not everyone's going to have the. I mean, I guess if they attend your TED talk, they might. But I mean, not everyone's going to have the ability to massage the tool to get the results out of it that you are, as a highly capable.
I am not a technical person. I'm just forced to use technology. What I just described, just I keep track of AI every week. There's a guy called Ned. If you Google him, he does tech. He has glasses and a beard, and he takes all this stuff accessible. And what he just said is one of the top people in the field thinks that, because he took December off when Opus 4.5 came out. He said when he's coding, now it's like he knows nothing. We are now moving to a point where we're not creating work with the AI. We're using AI agents to do the real work, and we have to steer it. And it's not precise. It's like trying to steer a crazy horse. All right. I have to literally go through all those steps to make this come out the right way.
I think
But
that's a
the
great
AI
analogy, by the way. That's kind of what I'm imagining. So.
Yeah, but it's not something that is negotiable. We are not going to do the work anymore. AI agents are going to do the work, and we have to steer it properly. And it's hard for the very best technical people to do this. And that is absolutely not me. I just figure this stuff out because I'm dyslexic and I have to. And I just happen to find solutions that work so well. I go onto a lot of AI podcasts as an expert. But this process, like, let me give you an example. There was one pretty well-known AI podcaster who was in a group of hundreds of knowledge workers, people master's level, decades of experience. And he said, how many of you, when you're doing something that you don't absolutely know, are running a deep research report first, then comparing what you're doing to deep research? I've been doing this for months. 2 people out of hundreds raised their hands. If you're not doing this, you're creating AI slop. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's useless. If you do this correctly, you are going to be 3 to 5 to sometimes 10 times more productive. And that's where the value is. We are creating, and this isn't just for coding. I don't do code. I don't touch any of that stuff. But I do PowerPoint presentations. I do documents. I do things I send out to parents. So when I created that full polish mode, I just did one today where we're putting up an online course, and the person I'm working with is another podcaster. She's an adjunct professor in curriculum design at Grand Canyon University for grad students. So she sent me a document. I went through asking it what it is, how it's doing, what changes need to be made, and then I created a deep research report. Then I used that with connecting it to my full polish mode. And I ran through it literally 11 times before it got to 0 mistakes. Mm-hmm. Now that document's ready to send back.
Right.
I did that while doing other things over the course of a couple of hours. Humans, that would have taken a team of people a week to do to get it to that stage.
I don't think Russell, I don't think I mentioned that we had a hard stop after an hour, so we do have 2 minutes left. It's been a fascinating discussion. I know we've both been kind of totally engaged here. Might have to review this again, actually. To fully comprehend it all, but we really appreciate your expertise and everything. What would you want to close out the episode? What's the main concept that you would like to close out the episode with? And also include your socials. So
very easy thing to do. Focus on the kid's speciality, what they're really interested in before you do anything. Then do specific to the general word analysis followed by articulation. After what I described, after you get them through that, then they can start using AI, not before. And if you'd like me to help you with any of this, the best thing to do is just to go to my website. It's dyslexiaclasses.com. That's with an S, dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a document, there's a button there that says download free guide. Answer 3 questions, get your free guide. And then most important thing is set up a time to speak with me directly so I can answer your questions. It's a half an hour, there's no cost.
Awesome. All right, Russell. Russell Van Brocklyn.
Yes, thank you.
Really appreciate you joining us for this.
This has been interesting. Yeah.
Episode 7 premiere. All right. Have a good afternoon, Russell.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah.